I'm Val, and today I'm really excited because I want to give you a little demo on how to make a fun book bag. Super easy project, great gift. So we have this wonderful new fabric in from this designer named Katie Daisy, and she has this lovely panel. So we made a kit where you can create 3 of these little book bags out of this kit. Now, the great thing about this pattern, or what I'm going to show you, is that you can make this work for any fabric you want. So today we're just going to use this lovely new Katie Daisy fabric. So what I use, because I'm using a lighter weight cotton, I am going to use a fabric for the outside. I'm going to use some flannel to give it some body. It's just plain white flannel. I have fabric for handles, and then I have fabric for the lining. So this is what you'll need to make 3 of these bags. So what we do with this fabric specifically is, and how I like to do it, so we open this up. Now this, we would press our fabric so it doesn't have any of these lines. So this is our panel. And I made pairs between like this one and this one and that and that and this to be my bags. And so what you would do on a little bit larger surface, you would open up your fabrics, and we're going to take our lining fabric and we're going to put it face down, unfolded completely, okay? I have a limited space here, but you can still make it work in a small space. Then I'm going to take my lining fabric, going to lay it down, and then we're going to lay our other fabric down like this. All right. So you line up all of your edges, and you'll make it nice and straight and even, and you'll cut out each one of these rectangles, and you'll cut off the very bottom of this strip. So the finished size, just so you know, of cutting, the cutting size I should say, is going to be approximately 13 inches, and I think this is 12. Yeah, by 12. So you're gonna cut those out. All right, so the magic is we have them all cut out. Now we're gonna layer, once we have them all cut out, so you have your little layers of fabric here, right? We're gonna set this aside and we're gonna cut the handles. So we get all of our cutting done first, then you can move your mat, okay? So for the handles, you're gonna take this fabric and I am left-handed, so I can cut with both hands, so I just swap my ruler around. And what we're doing is we're gonna cut 4 4-inch strips, okay? So we'll swap this over this way. So I have 4 inches. Okay, once you have your 4 strips, we're gonna cut off our salvages on the end and then sew these strips into one long strip, so end to end. I just layer all of mine up and then cut off the selvages. If you're not comfortable with that, cut them one at a time. They just end up being an added bulk in your handle that you don't need. All right, so those are done. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew these end to end. All right, so we're at the machine, and when I talk about sewing it end to end, I'm talking about these short ends. We're gonna put right sides together. And we are going to sew at 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna take this one on top. I'm gonna flip it over so the right side is down. And I'm gonna add the next strip. So this is then being chain stitched, and you don't have to stop and cut and start. I find it easier to make the handles first and then assemble the bag. So you have all your parts at once. All right. Now, now we're gonna press these handles, and then we will top stitch them. All right, so here we are. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna press this in half. Once this is all pressed in half, what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold in one side to that pressing line. This is how we hide our raw edges of the handle. So you're gonna press that side. You're gonna come over and press this one. All right, then one more pressing all the way down so it's your handle width. So again, we cut these 4 inches wide, and now we have our handle. So once this is all done, we're gonna then go to the machine and we're gonna top stitch. Okay, so now that we have everything pressed, we are gonna top stitch along both edges of our handle all the way down. So it's a really long piece of fabric, so just get comfy and find the foot pedal. Okay, so I go right to the edge. Just feed that in. Okay, I'm coming close to the end, and rather than starting back up at the top again, I always like to take and just rotate and go to this side and do the same thing. Get all of your strap. It's a really long strap, but I promise it is like the perfect length. Okay. So then I'm just gonna, whoop, I got my threads caught. Just gonna start here and go down the whole other side. All right, we're almost at the end of this. I know it took a long time, you guys, but now we're gonna get to the good stuff. So I have an extremely technical way of creating the lengths of your handles. Just kidding. Okay, so this is how I'm gonna take all this strapping. As you can see, it's pretty long, and I'm gonna basically make 3 equal lengths. And you know, we could do the math and I could tell you exactly what to cut them at, but this works also, because sometimes I'm a little lazy. All right, so we have our lengths here, and I'm gonna cut them. Since they're all going on separate bags, they don't have to be exact, okay? If you want to make them exact, you would just measure how long this is and divide it by 3 and cut them that length. Okay, so now that we have 3 handles, we're going to set those aside. Actually, we'll do this first. Okay, we need 2 handles, correct? So we're gonna take these. This is our 1 bag's worth of handles, and we're gonna cut them in half. So now we have 2 handles that are ready for when we put our bag together. The next sewing part we're going to do is going to be assembling the bag. So as you remember, we have our outside piece, our flannel, and our lining. So I'm gonna take the first outside piece, and I'm gonna lay it face down. Oh, you know what, you guys? I forgot some straight pins. So you're gonna look at this pretty fabric for just a moment, and I'm gonna get some straight pins. Great, so again, we're gonna take these 2 pretty fabrics with the flannel, and we're gonna line them up right sides together. I always add a few pins to keep everybody in line as they're supposed to be. I use about 3 per side. Here we are, 1 in the bottom here. All right, so we're gonna pin this together, and we're gonna pin our lining together, and then we're gonna sew. All right, so there's that one. Now we're gonna take our lining fabrics, and we're gonna put them right side together. And again, we're gonna pin it so it stays in place. All right, so come on over to the sewing machine. Again, we're gonna do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this. And we're obviously starting, this is the top of our bag. Make sure it's the top of your bag. And you're gonna, don't sew over your pins. When we get down to the bottom, we are going to, my bottom's a little bit bigger, I can see here. So this will happen sometimes. My bottom's a little bit bigger than my top, so I know this is more 1/4 inches right down there. So I'm gonna come down to about a 1/4 inch from that underneath. We're gonna look and make sure I'm accurate. I'm pretty accurate there. So obviously, you know, when you're cutting these panels out, sometimes because of the printing and everything, they may not be exactly the same size. And this bag has some give to it, so it's just fine. Now, as I feel along here, I know I can feel my edge coming back in line with itself. So we're just gonna keep going along here this way. So it'll have a little bit wider seam on the bottom, but that is just fine. Now this one is a little bit more in line. As much as I love to sew, I will 100% admit I am not always an extremely accurate cutter and or sewer. Hence why I like improv or really forgiving projects like this. All right, so get to the end of this, and then we're gonna wanna do the same thing with our lining fabric. So you're gonna stitch all the way down, around, and to the top, okay? Now, once those are done, we will have our two pieces, and what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to press down the top edge so that we can slide our bags into each other and top stitch around with the handles. So when I folded this over, little over 1/4 inch on here, and then we press it. Now with this one, which we can show here, it's important on the outside of your bag, you want to trim your little corners off right here. Not too close to the edge. And we can look here, you can see how off that was. I'm just going to trim that. I like to do my edge for this when it's inside out, because you have a little bit thicker amount of fabric to be pressing and folding over, and it works much better if you do it from this side. And then we will turn it right side out. I like to fold my seams one way or another and do the opposite on the lining so that they will nest when we put them together. And I'll show you how that works. So here we are. The edges can be the most cumbersome here. Make sure you get a good press so that when you do that last seam, putting these bags together, it'll be nice and tidy, okay? So we are going to slide this inside. Obviously you don't need to turn the lining right side out because you want it on the inside of your bag. I'm gonna push it down to my corners. Now, so this is what I mean by nesting. So you can see how this seam is folded this way, and this one is folded the opposite direction. So when you put them in here at your seams, the bulk of this seam is on this side and the bulk of the inlining seam is on this side. Okay, so I'm gonna pin that. From the outside, because we are going to be sewing, top stitching around the outside edge of this, inserting our handles as we go. Well, that side isn't nested, but that's okay. All right, now we have these two seams. Go tuck everybody in there. All right, we have these two seams in here. I like to then line up my edges. Okay, now this is the fun part. Grab your ruler, and I like to go in, take my handle, here's my handle, I'm gonna take one raw end of my handle. I like to go in about 2 inches from the edge where my handle's gonna go. So I see where that is, so I'm gonna slide it in to the length of my folded edge. So like all raw edges are lining up. I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna pin it in place. All right, and I'm gonna make sure my handle is not twisted. And I'm gonna come over here, and again, right here, same length as my raw edges here, right? So that is gonna get caught in the seam, and then I'm gonna pin it. So, I'll remove my ruler because I don't need it anymore. And what I need now is to place this one. Oh, I pinned both linings. Very efficient there. So I'm gonna take this out. There it is. Okay, so we know where this one is. Put this in the same spot. And again, I'm gonna pin. And I did the same thing with this one. So always check. Make sure your handle is not twisted. Come in at the same spot and pin. I will add another, I like to add another pin right in the middle, and then we will sew this together. Okay, so we're back to the machine. This is when I usually take this off because we want to be able to go around this with the least amount of cumbersome, and you don't want to sew over your bag. So I'm gonna come in here, and I like to start at a seam or somewhere near a seam. I'm gonna do a little less than a 1/4 inch there. Let's start a little before that. I like to hold my thread so you don't get any knots underneath there. Pull out your pins so you don't run over your pin. And we're just gonna slowly go along here. Make sure your handle is laying flat and straight as you come that way. I like to make sure my edges are lined up as I'm going along, little bits at a time. Slow and steady on this one. Here we go, coming around the other side, you can stop and flip. Oh, I have 2 pins in there now. Okay, now we are done. Trim my little threads. And now you have a lovely book bag. Put a little journal in there, some pens. It's a great gift. Thanks for watching, and if you like, please subscribe.